Sorry, I think I actually had my hand on that first.
Really? Because it's currently in my hand. I need it for a project.
And I need it for the drum break on track 3.
I'll buy it, scan it tonight, you get it tomorrow. But you owe me a coffee. Deal?
Deal.
That coffee handoff wasn't supposed to last more than 10 minutes. It was meant to be a transactional exchange, a rare piece of vinyl for a promise. But when Tae-young met Seoyan the following afternoon, the busy rhythm of Seoul seemed to slow down completely. For 3 hours, the ambient noise of the cafe faded into the background. Tae-young found himself opening up about his exhausting, sleepless nights, his obsession with finding the perfect unquantized drum loops, and the frustration of independent music production. Seoyan didn't just listen, she understood the grind. She flipped through her sketchbook, revealing raw, hyper-realistic charcoal portraits that looked so alive they practically breathed off the paper. There were no dramatic cinematic sparks or sudden fireworks between them. It was just an effortless, unforced connection in a city that usually demands so much effort to survive. As autumn deepened into November, their individual lives began to seamlessly intertwine. Together, they built a quiet sanctuary, an escape from the exhausting hustle of the city. Their weekends weren't spent at expensive restaurants or crowded Gangnam clubs. Instead, they found comfort in the quiet, creative spaces they shared. Seoyan eventually moved her easel into the corner of Tae-young's cramped studio apartment. For hours on end, the only sounds in the room were the scratching of her charcoal pencils against heavy paper, the soft stroke of her paintbrushes, and the repetitive, hypnotic loop of a low-end bass line he was mixing. They learned each other's creative rhythms without needing to speak. At 2 a.m., when inspiration finally gave way to pure physical exhaustion, they would walk down to the nearest convenience store, sharing steamed dumplings under the harsh fluorescent lights, laughing quietly at inside jokes. They were entirely in their own world. But winter in Seoul has a brutal way of cutting through even the warmest illusions. By December, the very ambition that had brought them together began to show its sharper edges. Tae-young's independent album project was facing endless, costly delays. The labels weren't responding to his demos, and mounting financial pressure forced him to take on mind-numbing freelance video editing gigs just to cover his half of the rent. At the same time, Seoyan landed her first major contract with a prominent advertising agency. But the artistic freedom she cherished was instantly crushed by corporate bureaucracy. Her days became a blur of rigid deadlines, endless revisions, and demanding clients that slowly drained her creative passion. The quiet, inspiring studio nights they used to look forward to began to shift. The silence that once felt deeply comfortable now felt incredibly heavy, weighted down by unsaid anxieties and individual exhaustion. It started with the small things: a supportive text message left unread for 6 hours, a missed dinner because a corporate meeting ran late into the evening. The tiny, quirky irritations they used to laugh off during the summer began to fester into resentment. Tae-young became defensive and closed off whenever Seoyan asked how his music tracks were coming along, mistakenly interpreting her genuine care as subtle pity. Seoyan, completely drained from pleasing demanding corporate clients all day, found herself with zero emotional energy left to navigate his volatile moods. They were still living under the very same roof, sharing the exact same bed, but the emotional chasm widening between them felt impossible to cross. The cozy, creative bubble they had fought to protect had cracked open, exposing them to the cold reality of two young creatives just trying to keep their heads above water. One bitter January evening, the unspoken tension finally boiled over. There was no explosive screaming match, no slamming doors or broken glass. Instead, it was something far worse: the quiet sound of Seoyan packing her art supplies into a cardboard box. As they stood in the middle of their apartment, looking at the vintage vinyl record that had accidentally brought them together, the silence was deafening. But just as she picked up her coat to walk out into the freezing night, Tae-young's phone lit up on the mixing desk. The caller ID wasn't a freelance client. It was the major indie record label he thought had ghosted him months ago. He looked down at the glowing screen and then up at the door slowly closing behind the only person who had ever truly believed in him. Now, he had a choice to make, and he only had seconds to make it.